What is up? What is up? I feel like my mullet growing out. So I've been sick with the flu. It hit me pretty hard. I smoked a cigarette, and I don't know what direction I'm gonna go with this video. My whole experience. I don't know if it was a psychotic episode or because when you're in that moment, I got taken away with the love that I was experiencing. It was like a drug. It felt like all the best emotions of pleasure and joy and fulfillment in light of when I was in the spirit of all the things that I got carried away as well, and I said a lot of things that just weren't truthful. I was trying to discern what was my judgment and what was coming from God, and I really wasn't testing it like as much as I should, and as much as I say, test every spirit. I wasn't aligning it up with what the word says, and but at the same time, I had things revealed that my imagination couldn't have lined up, like covering the tattoo with the demon hunter skull and it getting revealed. I also found that when I was in that, which is going to lead me to the point now, well, I had things revealed that aren't necessarily what the popular belief in science are, and it was like it was, look, God made us mature. The earth isn't even that old, and and so I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, even when I was an atheist, I had a hard time saying, well, yeah, but that book says that the earth hangs on nothing 5,000 years ago in Job, and it talks about the expanding universe and the round earth, and it's the circle of the earth in Isaiah, and things that you just can't deny where they ended up being scientifically true. And well, if that's the case, what about dinosaurs and stuff like that? I get it. I'm gonna have people scoffing and saying all kinds of things, but listen. Well, first off, there's cave paintings. There's cave paintings, I think, in Utah, in America, in North America, and there's some that I believe are in Brazil of a sauropod, like a long-necked dinosaur, and people. My son drew this. He's actually quite the artist. This is my son's. My point. He did a pretty good job, and he's a pretty good artist. I'm not. I've got writing disability. He's not drawing an imaginary Goku. That's something he experienced. That's something he saw. These people at ancient times that are doing these cave paintings, they didn't just, we found this full fossil, in the ground. We dug it, we found this full-on fossil, and we drew this sauropod with all these people. You also find that, well, I don't know, they might be hoaxes, but you find the Inca burial stones where they're killing them with spears and killing triceratops, riding, Tyrannosaurus rexes, and you also find, okay, it's called cryptozoology. It's the study of hidden animals. Well, there was there was a plesiosaur in the late 1800s. It's a picture of it that washed up on the shore. That thing's got like a 50-inch neck. And they said that was just a beaked whale. That ain't no beaked whale. Okay, that's a plesiosaur. The one with fins and has the long neck. That's what they say. Comes from all the Loch Ness monster sightings and everything. And listen, 80% of that sea ain't been charted. they have this other animal in Africa. I can't think of what it's called right now, but the natives draw it out, and they have it with a long neck. They say this is the animal. They don't even have, they don't have an education system. They don't have an idea about dinosaurs and stuff. Yet they're drawing this animal. And I'm take it back to that. Only 10% of African jungles have ever even got a white man to go in there, much less it's about 20% with the people in tribes, because the freaking insects, the mosquitoes are this big, the size of freaking pigeons. You know that. So I look at other things. I'm like, okay, and if you look at that, every society has what? They have a dragon story, and they depict the dragon the same way as where they interpret it as serpents, or they interpret it as either they always got they always got the same look. If in Wales, look at the flag of Wales. Look at China. They've got all those animals except the year I was born in December, as when the Chinese calendar, all real animals, but then they have a dragon. You've got Alexander the Great, who every year, this was a real man. Every year, though, what does he say? What does it say? He had a parade where he had all his tame dragons, and he took them through the town for the kids to see. He had tamed them. He also, there's stories also in the Apocrypha, Bell and the Dragon, where they put something poison into the food or the cattle, and when they eat it, they die, and that's how they were saying they slayed dragons and stuff. And then you go in all these different societies, and they all have a dragon story. They all have it based on it. Which would explain why there's some, everything in the ground is just like it's like a catastrophic incident. You don't have them evolving. You have a giant triceratops in that ground, and then at the bottom you got little ammonites. You don't have it growing into the triceratops. You just got a spirit. They got a raptor, a velociraptor, and this is in the fossil record. Biting a triceratops in the tail, that means it was buried while it was fighting. You know what I mean? It didn't just bite in the tail and it was fighting and they died, and then they died like that. They died in the middle of that fight. They died while attacking each other. So where's the evidence you have? If I saw this stuff and that's what was revealed to me, was that was the right account, well then wouldn't there be scientific evidence? But that's funny, there is. There was a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex found. I can't think. It was in I believe it was in North America. They couldn't. They found it complete. They couldn't lift it up on the helicopter. It was too heavy. And they did everything in their power not to contaminate nothing. It was done very the level, and they crack it open in the femur. What's inside it? Blood. And it's active. They found the blood. They put it under the microscope, the soft tissue, and they found active blood cells in it. Okay? And I don't know about you, but I'm a man that is logical. And I'm not going to say that survived 65 million years. I'm saying, and that's a fact, that animal walked with us. Even if it preserved on ice or anything, it's not going to survive that long. They found another one, I believe, that was in water. It was a type of bacteria Ancient. It was an ancient bacteria, and they found that, and that was the soft tissue was alive in that. You also, and they say, well, it's contaminants, but that's the problem. Out of 50, they all had it. A lot of dinosaur bones have radiocarbon 14 in them. They shouldn't. That ain't gonna last over 55,000. And then you can't say it's all contaminants, because then what else do you have? You got diamonds. Oh, they got radiocarbon 14 in them. They're supposed to be as old as the earth itself. Coal, same thing. Supposed to be as old as the earth itself. Why does it got carbon 14 in it? Then you go into other things like, what is it, anthropology, which is world population growth. If it's around the biblical timeline, the amount of people here right now is the right amount of number. Anything further on than that, you've got a major problem with world population growth. It doesn't line up with anything other than the biblical account. You've got people, even with Egyptology, a lot of the times, the pharaohs, they didn't record his time. They recorded their reigns. And then they'd have other statues. What did he do? He'd make that, oh, that was Ramsey too. And this was Ramsey as well. I slayed thousands of men. And we're taking history from that. They wrote off in Egyptology the Hittite civilization. Oh, that's just common era. That's just the common era with the Bible, a little mention, and it's nothing. What did they do? They found the Hittite civilization. And their account of history in Egypt lined up with the biblical account that it's supposed to. So I get it. It's not a science book, but at the same time, it's a history book. You can't deny that the earth hangs on nothing, and it was said in Job, he hangs the earth on nothing. The sphere of the earth, the circle of the earth. He will stand at the sphere of the earth, or stand at the circle of the earth in Isaiah 40. There's also animals that are dragons, particularly in Job, because Job is the oldest book in there. It's about 5,000 years old. It was long before they ever figured out that the earth is hanging on nothing. But in Job 40, it has an animal, and in Job 41, another animal that's a sea reptile. Oh, but here's the thing. The word dinosaur isn't until they started to pop up they found the first one, which means angry lizard. So you're not going to find the word dinosaur, but you will find dragon multiple times, or serpent, flying serpents. You hear about flying serpents as animals, not as myth. But in particular, Job has one of the biggest distinguishing ones, because it's talking about all these animals, the deer and the I can't remember which other ones that he's. And then he says, look at Behemoth, which I made with you, among you. He drinks up lakes. He's got a giant belly on him. His skin is like armor, and his tail swings like a cedar tree. I don't see any animals walking around like that. It's got skin like the rhino, basically, and it's drinking up lakes, and it's got a tail the size of a cedar tree swinging it around. I don't see that around. You say, because then you say, well, that could be an elephant. No, an elephant's got a tail. A rhino, no. Hippopotamus, no. It's got little tiny tails. It don't have a cedar tree. And there was a lot of I'll say this, look, fire, something spitting out fire is not something we should be like, hey, that's not something, that's like saying, well, an eel can't have electricity in it and it's living inside of water. So, yeah, that is what's happening. It's got electricity and it's swimming in water. An eel is electric. And that's mind-blowing. exist in nature. You got this beetle that emits something behind it to kill off predators, and it'll take your skin all the way down to bone. You know, it'll eat it off if you get a bit of it. So what I'm to say is, look, even walking as an atheist, I couldn't deny a lot of things like that, and I still can't. If anything, if people are just ignorant when they talk about it's evolution. Everybody believes that. I know, and a lot of people believed in a lot of bullshit. Have you not seen Nazi Germany? The majority was wrong. We have the swirl candy cone, the candy cane, a red swirl behind the barber. You know why? Because the majority of the world believe you go to the barber when you're sick, cut yourself, and you drip out the bad blood. That's what that means. As a matter of fact, that's where you get the sign for the Hippocratic Oath in hospitals. It comes from the barber, those two snakes. I believe they're snakes. Just because the majority of the population believes something, I mean, that they believe that in the midst of also denying, even moon settings, where the way the moon is set in that place, it was a little off in the years. Even the distant light, that can be easily explained. I'm not educated on that. Don't question me on that. I believe there's a lot of things. I believe that if you wanted to discredit something, you would do it from the foundation in the beginning. And you do it a long time ago, and you get a bunch of dumbasses running around saying, we don't, this is how it happened. I'm much more smart than you, and so is my other buddy. He's a smart guy. Yeah, we'll see about that, dumbass. When we all end up like Nazi Germany. And that's the way things are going. All right. If you're gonna be so ignorant on your point and love the smell of your own fucking farts, I don't mean to cuss, because I know people, particularly, look, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm trying to talk the lingo as well, man. I'm from the streets. You're not gonna bullshit me into anything that ain't. Well, then why is there diamonds in coal? Why has it got radiocarbon 14 in it? Genius. It's supposed to be as old as the Earth. 4 billion. Nothing should be inside that. You can't find them without it. Oh, it's contaminated. Everything's contaminated then. So you're saying there's a flaw in your aging technique anyway? That's a major flaw, right? But it's also, so it can prove something's older than that, but it can't prove something that's way older than that you use circular reasoning on, well, how do you date that fossil? Oh, from the rockets then. Well, how do I date the rocket? Well, the rock to the fossils then. So you're dating the rock from the fossil and the fossil from the rock. That is circular reasoning. And that's not what an academic does. That's not what someone who's an intellectual does. An intellectual is someone that looks at something that's, okay, well, if this is what it says as an account, then the facts should align with it. And if they align at all with any of the historical, then that would make it true. So everything you're doing in your power is trying to diminish that, even if it costs you your own bullshit. Because let's face it, if there's a God, there's going to be some rules. You know what I mean? And yeah, because it's scripture too, man. Look, you know what's right and wrong, right? I look at it this way: who are the nutcases out there running around, screaming in people's faces, getting hostile I got a whole month. They're lunatics. They're perverts that hate the Bible. And look, I'm not here to talk about that because I don't particularly want to get canceled right now. But if you don't like anything I have to say, well, I guess you're not academic enough, and I guess you're not intellectual enough to state where there's a T-Rex fossil with blood inside of it that survived. There's these fish in Africa, and they're in the fossil record. They were extinct. They were said they were extinct. They were 65 million years. They have these particular teeth. In Africa, dude was fishing, wood flaps up on the boat. One of them. That's where cryptozoology comes from, and the study of hidden animals. There's a there was a history show called Monster Quest. That was basically that, and it went a little crazy. You know, it had like freaking, you know, it had Bigfoot quite a bit, and then it had the snakes that people had as pets, and that they ended up finding that. There's a lot of they pulled up another one in the 80s on a boat, and they said it was whale protein. So it was probably a beaked whale, but it looked like maybe a plesiosaur as well, and it got pulled up on a boat. But at the same time, who's ever seen dinosaur, like a plesiosaurs, to sample? Who's to say it probably isn't more than likely like a whale? It's living in there, and I don't particularly know if you would distinguish it as a mammal, though. So yeah, I can see that being something. But the one in 1800s, that picture, I didn't know what I was gonna thumbnail. You know, I'll probably thumbnail some of the cave paintings, but that's the downfall of me not editing this. And I'm going to get a new phone, and I'm going to start editing so I can have my content a little bit better for people who might like it. I think I'm interesting. My point is, trying to dot everything. My point is, the problem that people don't see with saying, well, there were gaps in the days in Genesis and the Hebrew word yom. So, you know, it was millions of years in between, and, you know, there's theistic evolution, where there's a major problem. Because there was no death before sin. Nothing died. Except, insects that don't breathe. Anything that doesn't breathe is, in a biblical sense, an insect isn't a real living thing. Neither is a plant. Because it doesn't breathe oxygen. That was something that distinguished us. That when he breathed into us, it was, and I know it was love. We're made out of sunshine and rain. We're made out of love. So, you know, plants, they could die out, and so could insects. But, you know, a dinosaur steps on a giant insect and dies. But the animal's hierarchy wasn't in the plan. And there was a lion that, and I know this, that ate mostly, it didn't eat meat. It was in the zoo. It drank milk, but it did not eat meat. It ate vegetables. So you can't say they can't survive without meat. They can survive without meat. And look, sharp teeth are not an indicator that an animal eats meat. A fruit bat has teeth that are razor sharp like this. What do you think a fruit bat eats? An iguana. I had one. When they get big, and some of their teeth, and they're razor sharp, it's because they bite off the rock, all that algae, and they don't eat meat. So when you look at types of, you know, coconuts and watermelon, what kind of animal is biting into that? You know, it would require sharp teeth. It was after the sin that it was said that we got a number on our time. I will allude to this as well. When we went into having to start over the multiple times, more than likely where different colors came from people and different when our language changed and we started spreading out and adapting, because it says we're one blood, and that's what science says. There's no races. It's the human race as far as which and we and sharing similarities with an animal is another thing. It's just kind of bullshit, because we say we're 90, really it's like 95 shared with the chimp. We share 50 of it with a banana. 50% of us is also the same makeup as a banana. And it'd be stupid to say we're 50% banana. There's in that percentage that's off is like booklets to the moon of information in file cabinet, all the way to the moon and back 1,000 times. It's a lot. It's a lot of differences. You also have the problems with Lucy Africanus, I can't even think of what it was called, which was just an ape. It was just an ape. You've got a real misconception of how ancient man was probably a little bit better than we are. Neanderthal, you have it covered. There's people walking around with the eyebrow ridge in a bun. I've got the bun in the back of my head today. You don't see that as being something that's, they also they had an extra teeth in the back for the wisdom teeth. Their jaw was bigger. Their brain was at about 900. And a human Homo sapiens skull is about anywhere from 6 something to 700 something. Bigger than Homo erectus, even though that was like at 600. It's comparable with Homo erectus. And you find those men probably had arthritis deposits on them, and you find other things. You find a lot of different fascinating things that line up with the biblical accounts. And even you talking about Noah's Ark, there's a flood story in every civilization. There's one in China. There's one in Europe. There's a flood story. There's a flood. There's all over the world, and of course, you don't need to bring that there won't chihuahuas. That's just their kind. So that's 2 wolves, wolf kind. They'll make that. They don't mean 2 Belgian Malinois, 2 German Shepherds, 2 Cocker Spaniels. 2 of that kind, and you obviously would bring babies, and even dinosaur eggs were the biggest was the size of a football. They started out relatively small, and if everything on Earth maybe lived a little bit longer, lizards particularly, they don't stop growing until they die. So something in us, which would make sense, because the ancient man was not stupid. Ancient man had skulls they reshaped that had calcium deposits on them, so they survived the brain surgery. They had, in hieroglyphics, they had 2 snakes with electricity beaming to each other. They knew about electricity. There's a 2,000-year-old Iraqi battery that they found. They plugged up, still had a charge. It didn't even lose its charge. They knew about electricity. They had aerodynamic birds. They had quite a bit of different they had understanding about nutrition, and particularly the Neanderthal had a vast understanding of cosmetology, and they also buried their own dead. Only humans do that. They were burying their dead. They weren't just some dumbasses running around. They had a bigger. They were smart. And there was also quite a bit of what look at the and one of the proofs of a huge flood would be the Grand Canyon and the way it's tightly formed strata folded, and that's a runoff. That's a flood runoff. Look at it. It's a in which in that is where some of that. And I guess I'll show the paintings of some of the dinosaurs were in the Grand Canyon. So if it was a flood, that they would obviously they're drawing I go back to the painting. They were drawing something they saw. You know what I mean? I don't know about the Inca stones. I'm told there might be hoaxes, but here's the thing. The reason they say they're hoaxes is because, well, they couldn't be. Because I'm too smart to have a brain of my own to question the majority. Which is the fallacy that they have against people in biblical beliefs anyway. There's they can't believe anything that the Bible doesn't line up with. Okay, well, you can't believe anything that your bullshit don't line up with. You know what I mean? It's the same, and it's actually secular ground, and it's self-refuting on its own, because saying no absolutes, there's no absolutes. There's no way of even determining that what I just said, no absolutes being absolutely true. It's self-refuting. If there is no absolutes, how do you know what you just said is absolutely true? If there is, makes sense. What else? Let's see. But like I said, you'll find in the book, in particularly the Bible, they put a lot on the word dragon, which is found throughout the book, and serpents, which also were flying serpents. You'll find, like I said, in Alexander the Great, collecting various tamed dragons he ended up taming from hatching, and that's actually, it's recorded as history. It's not recorded as it was just he was just saying that. All the people were saying it in the civilization. This was something they experienced. It was his parades, and he loved his dragon, his pet dragons. He spent a lot of time with them, which is kind of cool too. Which would make sense. Listen, it don't matter if you raise something really young, we can tame it. We can tame any animal. I've seen a dog, and there's a zoo in Richmond here where there's a dog and a cheetah living with each other, and they're best friends. And they eat the same food together. They live in the same, and they play together. It's not all the things I'm saying are not like, when he gets a little bullshit is saying, okay, with some of the, we could make and create and clone a dinosaur, and you can't do that. They were going to put, and there was definitely an ice age, which would explain after the account of a biblical catastrophe. Well, then it would shake up. There would be an ice age that followed that type of catastrophic event, and it lines up. As a matter of fact, in Job, they believe that was during the ice age. It was talking about the crystal, the ice on the in that part in the Middle East at that time, where the seas were rising and freezing over, and they were walking over it. Anyway, they found some of the mammoths that were frozen. And what they were going to do was they were going to try and, I think, clone it with an elephant. The problem is when they melted it, which makes sense because look, it's an elephant. It's an elephant kind. You know, they won't say in the... In which, listen, there are dolphins where they take killer whale and they mate with dolphins. They've got a dolphin. They've got a zonkey where they've taken a zebra and a donkey and mated it, and it gave, you know, that it's two kind. This is kind of be, but you're not gonna take a rhinoceros and screw a dog and have, you know, a frogo. I don't know. A fago. I don't know. Nothing comes to mind. But maybe, you know, you take it out a rhino and an elephant. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm getting a little. I'm like, what would that be? That'd be kind of cool. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool though, wouldn't it? Anyway. Yeah. Imagine how hung it would be. But bad joke. They but like I said, we in particular as human beings have always had this ability to act, and that's where I was, and I was full of my own shit. I was saying, oh, I'm too smart. I'm smarter than this crap. I don't need to hear this fairy tales and this fallacy. It's all it's made up. It's made up for people who are just naive and afraid to die. And for me, it's kind of a call for adventure, and that's what I'm trying to lead you on. I'm trying to line up my adventure spiritually with something that might line up with something earthly, because he's like, how are you going to believe me with heavenly stuff if you can't even believe me on earthly stuff? When that man told him, how can I be born again? I'm 50 years old. And that's what he said. He said, how are you going to believe me on heavenly stuff? You can't even believe me on earthly stuff. So, I guess what I'm getting at is, it seems to me there's, and I'll do some more videos on this. People tend to like this. I don't know what I'll label this as. Dinosaurs lived with man. And I guess I'll end it here. I'm getting over. I'm trying to get over the flu right now, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I enjoy it. I like it. It gives me. I found it just gives me something. You know, it's something to living a little bit adventurous through even a child's eyes. You know, childlike faith, and you're like, well, that would be something. What if they did live with us? Of course, you're not going to live next to them. You're not going to live where they roam. Not to mention, the Earth used to be all one part. You know, and Pangea would be much better explained as it being flooded out. It is expanding, but anyway, grace and peace. Y'all have a good one. Let me know what you guys think. I'm always up for a friendly debate.